Hi folks, my name is Rob Wiener. I'm with MSU Extension.
I'm Andrea Denham. I'm the Executive Director of the Upper Peninsula Land Conservancy. We are here at the Vielmetti-Peters Conservation Reserve, which is a 123-acre nature preserve just right on the edge of Marquette and Negaunee Township. Really easy to get to. We've got 4 miles of trails to explore out here, including a little waterfall trail.
Today we are here to show you all how to use a compass. And once you get comfortable with those skills, there is a little compass course set up so you can come and explore on your own and go through a little scavenger hunt. Are we ready to give it a try?
Let's go, Rob.
All right.
So we are here today to talk about the skill of orienteering, which is using a compass to find your way in the woods. I know a lot of people can think of using a compass to find your way in the woods to be really complex, which can be pretty intimidating for folks.
Yeah, I know I sure was intimidated the first time I used a compass.
So compasses are actually really simple tools that we can use in the woods. All you really need to do is learn what the parts of a compass are, how they work together, and then you just have to be sure that you hold it properly, which we'll get to in a little bit.
That sounds pretty simple. Should we give it a try?
Let's give it a try.
Using a compass is as simple as learning 5 basic parts. And as Andrea mentioned, once you know these 5 basic parts, you put them together in a certain way, and if you hold your compass correctly, it's really a reliable way of navigating through the woods. So one of the main parts that people notice right away is that there's this thing that turns, this part that turns. This is called the dial. And this is really the first step when you're going to use a compass. First thing you would do is you would set this dial to the right degree that you want to travel. And we'll go over this in a few minutes. The next main part that is really obvious that most people recognize when they think of a compass is there is a needle inside this dial. Half of it's red, half of it's white. And this is really the whole, kind of the whole main premise of how a compass works is based off of this needle. Because as many people know, this works on a magnetic attraction to the North Pole. So this half red, half white needle is called the magnetic needle. The third main part that's important to understand is if you look all the way around the dial, you're going to see a whole bunch of little marks that are representing degrees. There's 360 of them because there's 360 degrees in a circle. But if you would look at this area right here and turn the dial while you're still looking at this area, you'll be able to see a line that does not move with the dial. That's our starting point. That's called the index line. The fourth main part is on our dial, there's going to be a bigger arrow. On most compasses it's red, has the letter N at the top of it. That stands for north. That means nothing to us unless we want to travel north. But we're looking at this big red arrow that's called the inner arrow. And finally, the last part that's important for us to understand when using a compass is at the top of our compass is a really big red arrow. This is the arrow that we're always going to follow. So this is called the direction of travel arrow.
So to simplify things even further, and specifically to help you learn the skill that we're going to be spending the rest of today's video on, we're going to simplify it down to just 3 parts. And those 3 parts are so important that we have given them each a nickname. So on the compass, we have the direction of travel arrow. That's our friend Fred. On the inside of the dial, we have the inner arrow that we call the shed. And finally, our magnetic needle is red. Pretty easy to remember, right? So we have red, Fred, and the shed, which in just a second, Rob is going to help you put all together and we'll actually learn how to start using the compass.
The last thing we need to understand before we put together the 3 main parts that have a nickname that Andrea just talked about is how to hold our compass correctly. And there's really only 2 rules to remember. Number 1 is that your compass always stays flat. What you'll notice is that if you turn it any direction, even just the slightest, that needle is just going to be bouncing all over the place and really in a completely unpredictable manner. So the most flat you can hold it, the better. The other thing that's really important when you're using your compass is that it's going to be glued to your stomach. So in just a few minutes, you're going to see how you turn to line certain things up. And instead of turning your compass like this, your compass is glued to you, so you turn with it. So you're always facing the direction that the direction of travel arrow or Fred is pointing. So that's a very important thing. Andrea just talked about how we have a part called Red, nicknamed Red, and we have the Shed, and we have Fred. You may remember that I referred to this little index line, and I said that that's our starting point. So if you want to travel whatever degree that you want to travel, the first thing you need to do is dial in that degree. And when I say dial in that degree, it means you turn the dial until whatever degree you want to travel is right on that index line. You might need to look closely for this because those numbers and lines are pretty small. So you have your degree lined in. Once you hold your compass correctly, and I'm just going to hold it up so you can see for just a minute here, but you have the degree dialed in. Now what you do is you just start turning your body. And as you turn your body, this red needle is going to turn. And when red is in the shed, if you follow Fred, you're going to be going the right direction. So if you can remember one sentence, put red in the shed, follow Fred. If you can remember that one sentence, you can remember how to use a compass.
So here's a little demonstration of what Rob was just talking about on a compass that actually works. So what we're going to do as we're looking is, or as Rob said, we're going to dial in. Let's say we know we want to travel at 120 degrees. And then you can see from here with my holding it real nice and flat and basically gluing it to my stomach. From here, I'm going to take Red and put him in the shed. So if I want to travel 120 degrees north, I'm moving my body. I'm not moving the compass. And you can see that magnetic needle spin around with me. So Red is in the shed right now. You can see there's Fred telling me the way to go if I want to travel 120 degrees.
Well, that wasn't so bad, was it, Andrea?
Not at all, just a couple of parts.
Well, really, we know how to use a compass now, and now we would be ready to start navigating through a forest, just like we have here. The last thing we need to understand, though, is how we would measure distances. Okay? And there's a really easy way to measure distances, because most people really wouldn't want to bring a tape measure and have to keep winding that up. Does that sound like it'd be much fun to you?
It sounds like a lot of stuff to carry around.
Yeah. So what most people do, there's a simple thing you can do, and that's called pacing. And pacing really is just where you walk your normal, steady steps and you count. But the only thing different from your normal steps that you would take is you count every other step. So maybe you start with your right foot. It doesn't really matter if you start with your right foot or your left foot. It just matters that you're consistent. So if you start with your right foot, count every time your right foot touches the ground. And so every time your right foot touches the ground, that's one pace. In order for this to work, it's really important too that you try to walk as kind of a steady, the same distance of a step at each step along the way. So that's pretty easy to do in a flat area. It's a little bit more challenging on hilly terrain like this. But do you want to give it a try and see if we can see how this works?
So if I take my first step with my right foot, and my second step is 1, 2, 3.
Well, we're really close to being able to start working through the woods. And there's one more small thing that we need to talk about, and that is something called picking out landmarks. So we've talked about how you have your compass, you dial in the degree you want to travel, you put Red in the shed, and you follow Fred. Now, when you see some terrain, like what's behind me here, where it's hilly and there's logs and there's obstacles and stuff that might be in the exact path that you want to travel, it's really important to pick out a landmark. So what I mean by that is you put Red in the shed and you hold it flat and it's glued to your stomach, just like everything we've talked about so far. But instead of following Fred right away, what you're going to do is you're going to sight right down Fred, and you're going to pick out a landmark. It could be a tree, a rock, a stump, anything that you can be absolutely certain is right on that line that Fred is making. Okay? So I have a landmark picked out. Now I don't need my compass. All I need to do is make sure I don't lose that landmark. So if I have to walk 50 paces through this forest, that would be really hard for me to do without drifting from one side to the next. But if I pick out a landmark that's on that line, I can, again, not have to stare at my compass. I can watch where I'm going. I can concentrate on walking at a nice, steady pace. And when I get to my landmark, I know I'm right on track. If you're walking a really long distance, from that point now, you might need to pick out another landmark. So you would do the same thing. Put Red in the shed, turn till everything's lined up, and sight down Fred, pick out another landmark. And now I'm looking at my landmark, not my compass. And that'll allow you to walk a straight line through the woods, through terrain, through obstacles, and still stay on target.
So the most important thing to do to gain confidence in your orienteering skills is to practice. Find what works for you, and just keep on going, keep on gaining confidence with it. So in order to help you do that, here at the Vielmetti-Peters Reserve, Rob and I have actually created a scavenger hunt that you can come out on your own time and do. So the Vielmetti-Peters is really easy to get to if you're coming from Marquette or Negaunee or Spring or Gwinn. It's just right on the edge of Marquette and Negaunee Township, kind of out by the mire at the end of Brickyard Road. You're welcome to come out here from dawn to dusk, any day of the year. We do just ask that you don't camp here or have your dogs, but we've got 4 miles of trail, including a waterfall that's pretty close here behind us. It's a great place to come and hike. So if you click the link in the description of this video, you can download a worksheet that Rob and I made that will walk you through a scavenger hunt orienteering course out here at the Vielmetti-Peters Reserve. We've given you a starting point. We've given you the direction to travel, or the degrees to put into your compass to travel, the number of paces to get to, and a clue to help you make sure that you've made it to the right spot. We've even included a marker that will that you can use to gain confidence and make sure that you're really truly at that right spot. And then you can follow the degrees of travel and the pacing and work your way through an entire scavenger hunt course here at the Vielmetti-Peters.
Well, that sounds great. We hope you guys had a lot of fun with this and are able to get outside and practice some of these things. We're going to do some practicing ourselves.
Yeah, let's do it.